For years, well-meaning spiritual guides and teachers have shared the same advice. If you can't hear God clearly, if you're struggling to feel His presence, it's a sign that you need more discipline, more prayer, more fasting, deeper meditation, and stronger faith. We've been told that our spiritual struggles are a result of personal shortcomings, that maybe we aren't trying hard enough, or that we lack the right level of commitment to our spiritual practices. This belief has been deeply ingrained, and many of us have carried the weight of this misconception, feeling as though our inability to connect with the divine is some kind of spiritual flaw. We've pushed ourselves harder, striving to do more, to be more, thinking that perhaps our effort is what God is waiting for. But now a powerful revelation has emerged, one that changes everything. The issue isn't about our discipline or our spiritual practices at all. The real reason we struggle to hear from God, the real challenge we face in connecting with the divine, has nothing to do with effort. It's about frequency. The truth is, we've been focusing on the wrong solution. We've been approaching our spiritual journey through the lens of effort and willpower, trying to force ourselves into a state of connection with God. But the reality is, the struggle we face isn't due to a lack of discipline or devotion. It's because we've been operating on the wrong frequency. You see, just as we have physical senses that allow us to experience the world around us, we also have spiritual senses that connect us to the divine. But these senses are tied to specific frequencies in our brain. The reason we can't hear God, the reason His voice feels distant, isn't because we're not trying hard enough. It's because we've been tuned into the wrong channel. In our modern world, we've been conditioned to live in a constant state of survival and stress, focused on productivity goals and achievement. Our brains are constantly in beta frequency, the frequency of doing and analyzing, leaving little space for receiving divine guidance. It's no surprise that many of us feel disconnected from God, as our brains are not tuned to the frequency where His voice is most clearly heard. This isn't a mistake or a flaw in us. It's simply the result of a lifetime of being conditioned to prioritize productivity and action over rest, presence, and stillness. For years, we've been told that we need to work harder to hear from God. But the truth is that what we really need is to retune our brain to the frequencies it was originally designed to operate in. When we were children, we were naturally more connected to the spiritual realm. Our brains operated in theta and gamma frequencies, states of deep intuition, creativity, and divine connection. But as we grew older and entered the demands of adult life, we were trained to shift into beta mode, where survival stress and analysis dominate. This shift was necessary for functioning in the world, but it came at the cost of our spiritual sensitivity. The problem isn't that we've been doing something wrong. The problem is that we've been operating in the wrong frequency, and that has affected our ability to hear God. The divine connection we once had naturally is still available to us. It just requires a shift back to the frequencies we were originally designed to operate in. Today, we're going to explore how we can restore our connection with God by aligning ourselves with the right frequency. The time for striving and struggling is over. It's time to stop beating ourselves up for not being spiritual enough and start focusing on the real issue, tuning our brains to the divine frequency. This shift is not about more effort. It's about releasing the struggle and making space to receive. When we learn to align ourselves with the right frequency, everything changes. Our connection with God becomes clearer, our spiritual guidance more direct, and our lives filled with the peace, clarity, and wisdom we've been longing for. It's time to step into the truth of who we are and restore what was always meant to be ours. To understand the core issue of spiritual disconnection, we must first dive into the science of the brain, and how it operates on various electrical frequencies. These frequencies are not just random patterns of electrical activity. They are the key to how we experience life, how we perceive the world around us, and more importantly, how we connect with the divine. Our brain functions within different frequency ranges, primarily theta, gamma, and beta. These are not merely scientific terms. They represent distinct states of being, each with its own impact on our spiritual awareness. The beta frequency, which most adults live in on a daily basis, is the frequency of alertness and survival. It's the state we enter when we are working, analyzing problems, making decisions, and managing the demands of life. It's a frequency of doing, processing, and reacting to external stimuli. When you're navigating the challenges of life, working through deadlines, figuring out financial concerns, responding to crises, your brain is in beta mode. This is where stress, anxiety, and constant mental activity thrive. It's where we are constantly trying to control the environment around us and fix things. But this state, although necessary for productivity, is far removed from the divine connection we are designed to experience. On the other hand, theta and gamma are the frequencies that hold the key to creativity, intuition, and the connection to the divine intelligence that guides us. Theta, which operates between 4 to 8 Hz, is the frequency of deep relaxation, meditation, and intuition. It's the frequency we enter during moments of profound insight, creativity, or when we are deeply connected to our spiritual source. This is the frequency where divine downloads happen. When we enter theta, we move beyond the limitations of analytical thinking and begin to access a higher state of awareness. We tap into our intuition, the knowing that doesn't come from logical reasoning, but from an inner spiritual guidance that transcends human understanding. Gamma frequency, ranging from 30 Hz and above, is associated with moments of sudden knowing, epiphanies, and breakthroughs. When our brain operates at this frequency, we process complex information at lightning speed, and we can experience flashes of insight that seem to come from nowhere. This is the frequency that mystics throughout history have referred to as the God frequency, the place where we experience clarity, divine intelligence, and spiritual connection in its most direct form. When theta and gamma frequencies synchronize, something extraordinary happens. This is the state where divine connection becomes not just a concept, but a living reality. In this space, we are able to receive guidance and insight effortlessly. Our minds are not cluttered by stress or the constant demand of survival mode, and we can open ourselves fully to the flow of divine intelligence. But here's the problem. Modern society has conditioned us to stay in beta frequency, focusing primarily on productivity, survival, and analytical thinking. From the moment we begin school, we are taught to value efficiency, to focus on completing tasks, and to respond quickly to external demands. Our education systems, workplaces, and even social media have created environments where beta mode is not just encouraged, but required. We are taught that our worth is measured by our ability to perform, analyze, and do, rather than our ability to rest, receive, and connect. As a result, the natural state of theta and gamma, the very frequencies that align us with the divine, are suppressed. Think back to your childhood for a moment. Before the world taught you to prioritize action over presence, your mind was in a completely different state. As a child, you were naturally more in tune with the world around you. You had an incredible ability to sense things without logical explanation, to know when something was wrong even before anyone said a word, and to dream without limitations. Children operate predominantly in theta frequency, which is why they can be so connected to their imagination, intuition, and the spiritual realm. It's why children often experience moments of deep, profound knowing. They don't have to try to be connected. they simply are. This natural connection to the divine and the world of intuition, creativity, and insight is not some magical trait unique to childhood. It is a reflection of how our brains are designed to function. As children, we are naturally aligned with the frequencies of divine connection, where our creativity flows effortlessly and our intuition is sharp. However, as we grow older, the demands of life begin to shift us into beta mode, where survival and analytical thinking take precedence over spiritual awareness. We are trained to prioritize productivity and focus on the external world, and over time, the ease with which we once accessed theta and gamma frequencies fades. Modern society's emphasis on doing rather than being has created a culture where we're constantly in motion, mentally wrestling with problems, striving to solve them, and pushing ourselves to succeed. But in this constant state of doing, we lose the ability to just be, to rest, to listen, to receive. The more we live in beta mode, the further we move from the frequencies that would allow us to tap into divine guidance, and the harder it becomes to hear God's voice clearly. It's not that we are incapable of connecting with God. It's that we've been trained to operate at the wrong frequency, one that keeps us disconnected from the flow of divine intelligence. When we begin to understand this concept of frequency and its impact on our spiritual life, it becomes clear that the struggle to connect with God isn't a personal failure or a lack of effort. It's simply a matter of being tuned into the wrong frequency. Our brains have been conditioned to operate in beta, which keeps us in survival mode, constantly focused on external stressors and analytical thinking. In this state, we cannot hear the quiet, subtle whispers of the divine because we are too focused on reacting to the chaos around us. The solution is not more effort, but a shift in our state, a realignment of our mind and body with the frequencies we were designed to operate in. In order to reconnect with the divine, we must restore the ability to move between beta, theta, and gamma states. Specifically, we must learn to tap back into the theta-gamma frequencies that allow us to receive divine guidance, intuition, and creativity. These frequencies are not just a tool for spiritual connection. They are the natural state of the human brain. We were born with the ability to access them, but modern life has gradually trained us to ignore or suppress them. The good news is that it's not too late to restore this natural connection. By understanding the science behind our brain's frequencies and learning how to realign ourselves with theta-gamma, we can unlock the divine connection that has always been available to us. We can shift from a state of survival and stress to a state of receiving and alignment, where God's voice is clearer, our intuition sharper, and our connection to the divine stronger than ever. The journey to spiritual restoration begins with the recognition that our struggle isn't about a lack of effort or discipline. It's about learning how to tune our frequency back to where it was always meant to be. When we make that shift, everything changes. Our lives begin to align with divine timing. Our paths become clearer, and we start experiencing the miracles, synchronicities, and breakthroughs that we've been longing for. The first step toward restoring our connection with God is understanding the power of frequency and the impact it has on our spiritual lives. Only then can we begin to reconnect with the divine intelligence that is waiting to guide us. For far too long, we have been told that our spiritual struggles stem from a lack of discipline or effort. We've been conditioned to believe that if we couldn't hear God's voice clearly, it was because we were somehow deficient in our devotion. Our prayers weren't long enough, our fasts weren't rigorous enough, our faith wasn't strong enough. Spiritual teachers and well-meaning guides have repeatedly told us that we need to work harder, to try more, to push ourselves to be more disciplined in order to hear God. This messaging, though well-intended, has created a burden on many of us. It has made us feel as though we are failures in the spiritual realm if we don't experience God the way others do, and it has made us believe that we must exhaust ourselves in effort to access the divine. But what if the real issue isn't about trying harder? What if the reason we struggle to hear God's voice isn't because of our lack of effort, but because of something entirely different? The truth is, it's not about discipline. It's about frequency. The real struggle lies not in our willpower, but in the state of our brain frequencies. The reason we cannot clearly hear God's voice is because we are operating in the wrong frequency. God's voice and divine guidance exist within specific frequencies of consciousness, and if our minds are tuned to the wrong frequency, we will miss the messages that are being broadcast to us. It's as though we are trying to tune into a radio station, but we have the dial turned to the wrong frequency. No matter how hard we try, we won't hear the broadcast clearly until we adjust our frequency to match the one that is transmitting the message. The concept of frequency is not just a spiritual idea, it is also rooted in science. The brain operates at different frequencies depending on what state we are in. Beta, theta, and gamma are the three primary states of brain frequency that influence our experience of the world, including our spiritual connection. Most of us spend the majority of our time in beta, the frequency associated with analytical thinking, stress, and survival. In beta, we are focused on external demands, thinking about problems, managing tasks, and navigating the challenges of daily life. This is the frequency where we experience most of our mental and emotional stress, because it is tied to our need to survive, make decisions, and solve problems. While beta is necessary for productivity and action, it is not the frequency where we experience deep spiritual connection. To access divine guidance, we need to operate in theta or gamma frequencies. Theta, the frequency of creativity, intuition, and deep meditation, is where we experience heightened spiritual awareness. It is where divine downloads and insights occur naturally. When we are in theta, we are open and receptive, allowing our intuition to guide us without resistance. Similarly, gamma frequencies associated with heightened cognition and moments of clarity are where epiphanies, breakthroughs, and sudden moments of divine insight occur. When theta and gamma frequencies align, we enter a state that mystics have referred to as the God frequency, the frequency where we are most connected to divine wisdom, insight, and guidance. The problem arises when we spend the majority of our time in beta frequency, which leaves us disconnected from the more subtle and receptive states of theta and gamma. When we operate in beta, our brains are too focused on external stimuli and survival to be attuned to the divine messages that exist within the other frequencies. The Bible speaks of a peace that passes understanding, a peace that is not based on our circumstances, but on an internal state of alignment. This peace, this ability to receive clear spiritual guidance, is found when we shift from beta to theta and gamma, where divine wisdom flows naturally. Throughout history, there have been examples of spiritual figures who were able to operate in these higher frequencies, tuning their minds and spirits to divine guidance. Solomon, for instance, didn't just pray for wisdom. He created the conditions necessary for it. He withdrew from the distractions and demands of his kingdom, creating a space of stillness where he could hear from God. Solomon's ability to receive divine wisdom was not just a result of his discipline or effort. It was because he created a frequency alignment that allowed him to tap into the divine intelligence that was always available to him. This wasn't about striving harder, it was about aligning his mind with the right frequency. Similarly, the Apostle Paul experienced a dramatic shift in his spiritual connection when he was struck blind on the road to Damascus. This moment was not just about a physical experience. It was about Paul being forced into a state of complete receptivity. In that moment of blindness, when he could no longer rely on his vision or his analytical mind, he was able to tune into the divine frequency with clarity. This was a radical frequency shift. It wasn't about Paul working harder or being more disciplined in his efforts. It was about God meeting him where he was and guiding him into a frequency that allowed him to hear God's voice more clearly. Paul's conversion didn't happen because of his effort. It happened because of his ability to be receptive to the divine frequency. The biblical examples of Solomon and Paul illustrate an important truth. Spiritual connection is not about working harder or striving more. It's about aligning our mind and spirit with the frequencies that allow us to hear clearly. The divine frequency is not distant or inaccessible. It's always present, waiting for us to tune in. When we align ourselves with the right frequency, the connection becomes natural, effortless, and direct. This is the state that we were designed to live in. Unfortunately, modern society has systematically trained us out of this natural state. From childhood, we are taught to value beta frequency over all others. Schools, workplaces, and even our social environments demand that we operate in beta mode, always doing, always analyzing, always striving. This constant state of doing and survival conditions our minds to operate in beta, leaving little space for the deeper, more intuitive states of theta and gamma. As a result, we become disconnected from the divine intelligence that is constantly available to us. We forget how to hear God because we've been conditioned to prioritize the wrong state of being. This is the true reason for the struggle to hear God. It's not a failure of discipline or effort. It's a failure to recognize the importance of frequency alignment. When our brains are out of alignment with the divine frequency, no amount of prayer, fasting, or discipline will make a difference. It's like trying to listen to a radio station that isn't tuned correctly. The signal is there, but it's distorted. We need to retune ourselves to the frequency of divine connection, and when we do, everything shifts. God is not silent. He's broadcasting clearly. But we must adjust our minds to hear His voice clearly. The science behind brainwave frequencies shows us that spiritual connection is not just about striving harder. It's about creating the right conditions for it to flow. It's about understanding the frequencies that our brains need to operate in to receive divine guidance. And the good news is, we don't have to do it alone. By learning to align ourselves with the right frequencies, we can unlock the divine connection that is waiting for us. It's time to stop trying to work harder and start aligning with the frequencies that will bring us closer to God. When we do, we will experience clarity, peace, and divine wisdom like never before. For far too long, we have been told that our spiritual struggles stem from a lack of discipline or effort. We've been conditioned to believe that if we couldn't hear God's voice clearly, it was because we were somehow deficient in our devotion. Our prayers weren't long enough. Our fasts weren't rigorous enough. Our faith wasn't strong enough. Spiritual teachers and well-meaning guides have repeatedly told us that we need to work harder, to try more, to push ourselves, to be more disciplined in order to hear God. This messaging, though well-intended, has created a burden on many of us. It has made us feel as though we are failures in the spiritual realm if we don't experience God the way others do, and it has made us believe that we must exhaust ourselves in effort to access the divine. But what if the real issue isn't about trying harder? What if the reason we struggle to hear God's voice isn't because of our lack of effort, but because of something entirely different? The truth is, it's not about discipline, it's about frequency. The real struggle lies not in our willpower, but in the state of our brain frequencies. The reason we cannot clearly hear God's voice is because we are operating in the wrong frequency. God's voice and divine guidance exist within specific frequencies of consciousness, and if our minds are tuned to the wrong frequency, we will miss the messages that are being broadcast to us. It's as though we are trying to tune into a radio station, but we have the dial turned to the wrong frequency. No matter how hard we try, we won't hear the broadcast clearly until we adjust our frequency to match the one that is transmitting the message. The concept of frequency is not just a spiritual idea, it is also rooted in science. The brain operates at different frequencies depending on what state we are in. Beta, theta, and gamma are the three primary states of brain frequency that influence our experience of the world, including our spiritual connection. Most of us spend the majority of our time in beta, the frequency associated with analytical thinking, stress, and survival. In beta, we are focused on external demands, thinking about problems, managing tasks, and navigating the challenges of daily life. This is the frequency where we experience most of our mental and emotional stress, because it is tied to our need to survive, make decisions, and solve problems. While beta is necessary for productivity and action, it is not the frequency where we experience deep spiritual connection. To access divine guidance, we need to operate in theta or gamma frequencies. Theta, the frequency of creativity, intuition, and deep meditation, is where we experience heightened spiritual awareness. It is where divine downloads and insights occur naturally. When we are in theta, we are open and receptive, allowing our intuition to guide us without resistance. Similarly, gamma frequencies associated with heightened cognition and moments of clarity are where epiphanies, breakthroughs, and sudden moments of divine insight occur. When theta and gamma frequencies align, we enter a state that mystics have referred to as the God frequency, the frequency where we are most connected to divine wisdom, insight, and guidance. The problem arises when we spend the majority of our time in beta frequency, which leaves us disconnected from the more subtle and receptive states of theta and gamma. When we operate in beta, our brains are too focused on external stimuli and survival to be attuned to the divine messages that exist within the other frequencies. The Bible speaks of a peace that passes understanding, a peace that is not based on our circumstances, but on an internal state of alignment. This peace, this ability to receive clear spiritual guidance, is found when we shift from beta to theta and gamma, where divine wisdom flows naturally. Throughout history, there have been examples of spiritual figures who were able to operate in these higher frequencies, tuning their minds and spirits to divine guidance. Solomon, for instance, didn't just pray for wisdom. He created the conditions necessary for it. He withdrew from the distractions and demands of his kingdom, creating a space of stillness where he could hear from God. Solomon's ability to receive divine wisdom was not just a result of his discipline or effort. It was because he created a frequency alignment that allowed him to tap into the divine intelligence that was always available to him. This wasn't about striving harder, it was about aligning his mind with the right frequency. Similarly, the Apostle Paul experienced a dramatic shift in his spiritual connection when he was struck blind on the road to Damascus. This moment was not just about a physical experience, it was about Paul being forced into a state of complete receptivity. In that moment of blindness, when he could no longer rely on his vision or his analytical mind, he was able to tune into the divine frequency with clarity. This was a radical frequency shift. It wasn't about Paul working harder or being more disciplined in his efforts. It was about God meeting him where he was and guiding him into a frequency that allowed him to hear God's voice more clearly. Paul's conversion didn't happen because of his effort. It happened because of his ability to be receptive to the divine frequency. The biblical examples of Solomon and Paul illustrate an important truth. Spiritual connection is not about working harder or striving more. It's about aligning our mind and spirit with the frequencies that allow us to hear clearly. The divine frequency is not distant or inaccessible. It's always present, waiting for us to tune in. When we align ourselves with the right frequency, the connection becomes natural, effortless, and direct. This is the state that we were designed to live in. Unfortunately, modern society has systematically trained us out of this natural state. From childhood, we are taught to value beta frequency over all others. Schools, workplaces, and even our social environments demand that we operate in beta mode, always doing, always analyzing, always striving. This constant state of doing and survival conditions our minds to operate in beta, leaving little space for the deeper, more intuitive states of theta and gamma. As a result, we become disconnected from the divine intelligence that is constantly available to us. We forget how to hear God because we've been conditioned to prioritize the wrong state of being. This is the true reason for the struggle to hear God. It's not a failure of discipline or effort. It's a failure to recognize the importance of frequency alignment. When our brains are out of alignment with the divine frequency, no amount of prayer, fasting, or discipline will make a difference. It's like trying to listen to a radio station that isn't tuned correctly. The signal is there, but it's distorted. We need to retune ourselves to the frequency of divine connection, and when we do, everything shifts. God is not silent, He's broadcasting clearly. But we must adjust our minds to hear His voice clearly. The science behind brainwave frequencies shows us that spiritual connection is not just about striving harder, it's about creating the right conditions for it to flow. It's about understanding the frequencies that our brains need to operate in to receive divine guidance. And the good news is, we don't have to do it alone. By learning to align ourselves with the right frequencies, we can unlock the divine connection that is waiting for us. It's time to stop trying to work harder and start aligning with the frequencies that will bring us closer to God. When we do, we will experience clarity, peace, and divine wisdom like never before. In our modern, fast-paced world, the idea of rest is often misunderstood. Too many of us view rest as a luxury or something that happens only when we are physically exhausted. Rest is often associated with laziness or weakness. But in the context of spiritual connection, rest is a powerful form of frequency alignment. It is not about disengaging from life, but about stepping back from the constant noise and busyness of the world to realign our minds with the frequencies that allow divine guidance to flow. When we rest, we make space for our brains to shift from beta, the frequency of stress and survival, into theta and gamma, the frequencies of divine connection, creativity, and intuition. Rest is an essential practice for frequency restoration. Just as a radio needs to be tuned to the right station to receive a clear signal, our brains need to be aligned with the right frequency to receive divine insight. In the Bible, we see two powerful examples of how rest and withdrawal were not only important, but necessary for spiritual growth. Solomon, renowned for his wisdom, didn't just pray for wisdom, he created the conditions for it. He withdrew from the distractions of his kingdom and spent time in a quiet place where he could hear from God. This wasn't laziness, it was intentional resting to realign his frequency. When Solomon created space for stillness, he allowed his mind to drop from the beta frequency of doing and into the theta frequency of deep spiritual connection, where divine wisdom could flow freely. Similarly, Jesus often withdrew from the crowds to rest and recharge. He would leave the busyness of his ministry, the pressure of the crowds, and the demands of his disciples to find solitude and quiet. In Matthew 11:28, Jesus invites us, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." This wasn't just a call to physical rest, it was a call to spiritual realignment. Jesus understood that rest is not simply a break from activity, but a shift in frequency where we move from the chaos and demands of life into a place where we can clearly hear God's voice. By removing distractions and entering into stillness, Jesus aligned his frequency with the divine, allowing God to speak to him without interference. Rest, then, is a spiritual tool. It's a practice of allowing our minds to step out of the constant noise of the world and tune back into the frequency of divine connection. But how do we practically restore the theta-gamma frequency that is essential for receiving divine guidance? This shift requires more than just a physical break. It requires conscious, deliberate practices that allow our minds to enter into these higher frequencies. One of the most effective tools for frequency restoration is brainwave entrainment technology. This science-backed method uses specific sound frequencies to help our brains synchronize with the theta and gamma waves. The idea is that by listening to these frequencies, we can train our brains to drop into the higher states of consciousness, where divine insights and guidance are most accessible. While technology like brainwave entrainment can be a powerful tool, it's important to remember that we also have simple daily practices that can help restore the right frequency. One such practice is deep breathing. When we breathe deeply, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for the body's rest and relaxation response. Deep breathing helps us move out of the fight or flight state of beta frequency and into the peaceful, receptive states of theta and gamma. By focusing on our breath, we can calm the mind and create the conditions necessary for divine connection to flow. Another powerful practice is meditation. Meditation allows us to quiet the mind and create space for inner stillness. In these moments of quiet, we align ourselves with the theta frequency, where intuition and divine downloads happen effortlessly. Meditation doesn't require a lot of time. It can be as simple as setting aside just 7 to 12 minutes each morning to sit in silence, focusing on our breath or on a spiritual word or affirmation. As we quiet our minds, we allow the divine to speak more clearly, free from the distractions of our busy thoughts. In addition to these practices, listening to frequency-specific audio such as the Genius Wave can help us restore the theta-gamma state. These audio tracks are designed to guide our brains back into the natural divine frequencies, where God's voice can be clearly heard. By listening to these frequencies for just a few minutes each day, we can train our minds to drop into the higher states of consciousness, making it easier to receive divine guidance and insights. The best part is that this practice doesn't require us to do anything other than listen. It's a passive yet powerful way to restore the natural frequency of connection with God. While these methods can be incredibly effective, it's also crucial to protect our frequency by reducing stress triggers throughout the day. In our modern world, we are constantly bombarded with distractions and stressors that keep our brains locked in beta mode. News, social media, negative relationships, and chaotic environments all contribute to the mental clutter that keeps us disconnected from divine guidance. One of the most powerful ways to protect our frequency is to set boundaries. We must learn to limit our exposure to things that drain our energy or pull us into a state of stress. This might mean reducing the time we spend on social media or avoiding toxic conversations that pull us into negativity. It might mean creating physical space in our homes or workspaces where we can retreat to find peace and quiet. Prioritizing peaceful environments is another important step in frequency protection. Surrounding ourselves with people who value peace, presence, and stillness helps keep our frequency aligned with divine guidance. This isn't about judging others, it's about being mindful of how our environment impacts our spiritual state. We are spiritual beings, and our surroundings can either help us align with God or pull us away from Him. By intentionally creating environments of peace and calm, we invite the space for divine insight and guidance to flow more freely. In addition to protecting our mental environment, we must also care for our physical bodies, as they play a significant role in our frequency. The foods we eat, the exercise we engage in, and the rest we get all impact our ability to align with divine frequencies. Our bodies are not separate from our spiritual lives. They are the vessel through which we experience the divine. When we nourish our bodies with healthy foods, hydrate properly, and get enough rest, we create a foundation for spiritual alignment. Omega-3 fatty acids and hydration are particularly important for brain health and for maintaining the ability to access higher frequencies like theta and gamma. Sleep is another critical aspect of frequency restoration. During deep sleep, our brains naturally enter theta and even delta states. This is when healing happens, when our minds reset, and when we restore the balance needed for spiritual alignment. Lack of sleep keeps us in a beta state of alertness, which is why so many of us feel disconnected from our spiritual guidance when we're tired. Ensuring we get the right amount of rest, 7 to 9 hours each night, is essential for keeping our frequency aligned. Finally, the most important practice we can embrace is humility. The old paradigm told us that we must prove ourselves to earn God's favor, that we must work harder and strive more to deserve divine blessings. The new paradigm is about receiving. It's about shifting from a mindset of striving to a mindset of aligning. When we embrace humility, we stop trying to force things into place, and instead, we open ourselves to receive divine guidance without resistance. This is the shift that allows the frequency to flow when we stop fighting for control and begin to trust that everything we need is already available to us. As we practice these methods and make space for rest, reflection, and realignment, we will find that divine guidance becomes clearer. Our connection to God becomes stronger, and the peace that passes understanding will fill our hearts and minds. Frequency alignment is the key to unlocking a deeper, more profound relationship with the divine. And it begins with rest, protecting our frequency, and creating the right conditions for spiritual connection to flow. When we align ourselves with the right frequency, the divine becomes more than a concept. It becomes our lived reality. When you begin to align yourself with the right frequency, everything starts to change, not just spiritually, but practically. The benefits of operating in theta-gamma frequencies are profound, leading to a transformation that touches every aspect of your life. This alignment is not just about feeling more connected to God. It also brings clarity on your life's purpose, a sense of direction that guides your every decision. When you are operating at the right frequency, you no longer feel lost or uncertain. Instead, you begin to receive clear downloads, divine insights, and intuitive guidance that flow effortlessly into your mind. There's no longer a need to wrestle with questions about your purpose or path in life. These questions are answered naturally as you tune into the frequency where divine intelligence resides. In this state, you are in sync with God's plan for you. The spiritual clutter that once clouded your mind is cleared, and you are now able to hear His voice clearly. You don't have to force answers or struggle with doubt. The clarity that comes with frequency alignment allows you to cognize your calling, understand your purpose, and see how everything fits together. The path before you becomes clearer, and you are filled with confidence and peace knowing that you are walking in alignment with God's will. Life's uncertainties begin to dissolve as you gain a deep sense of knowing that you are on the right path. The divine guidance you receive is not just a vague feeling. It is a clear, unmistakable direction, giving you the wisdom you need to make decisions that move you forward with purpose and grace. As your connection to the right frequency strengthens, you will notice something remarkable. Synchronicities will begin to increase. Divine appointments, unexpected blessings, and affirmations from the universe will come into your life more frequently. When you are aligned with the frequency of divine flow, the universe seems to conspire in your favor, bringing the right people, opportunities, and circumstances to support your journey. These synchronicities might appear as moments of perfect timing, where everything aligns effortlessly. Perhaps you think of someone and they reach out to you just moments later. Maybe you've been contemplating a decision, and out of nowhere a sign appears confirming your choice. As you move through your day, you begin to notice these moments more clearly and often, realizing that God's hand is at work in your life at all times. These divine appointments are no longer rare or exceptional. They become a regular part of your experience as you stay in alignment with the right frequency. With increased synchronicities comes an overwhelming sense of peace. Operating in the theta-gamma frequency brings a calm that doesn't depend on external circumstances. Even in the most chaotic situations, you remain anchored in peace. It's a peace that surpasses understanding. A peace that doesn't rely on everything being perfect or predictable. Instead, it's a peace that emanates from within, grounded in the assurance that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. When you are aligned with God's plan, you can weather life's storms with grace and composure. The external world may shift, but your inner world remains steady, allowing you to navigate challenges with a sense of trust and calm. This peace is also accompanied by a heightened discernment. When your frequency is aligned, your ability to sense truth from deception sharpens significantly. You begin to read situations and people more clearly, sensing what is authentic and what is false. This isn't simply intuition, it's a spiritual gift that comes from being connected to divine wisdom. You can feel when someone's words don't match their energy, or when something doesn't sit right, even if there is no obvious explanation. Similarly, you begin to sense the right opportunities and decisions with greater clarity. This discernment allows you to move with wisdom, making choices that align with your higher purpose and avoid pitfalls that could pull you off track. One of the most powerful outcomes of operating at the right frequency is the acceleration of manifestation. When you are aligned with divine intelligence, your desires and God's provision meet in a powerful, effortless flow. What once took years and struggle begins to manifest in weeks or even days. It's not that you're suddenly trying harder or pushing yourself more. It's that you are now vibrating at the same frequency as the things you desire. When you are in alignment, you no longer have to force things into existence. Instead, things come to you naturally, effortlessly, as if the universe itself is aligning with your intentions. Doors open, opportunities arise, and everything begins to fall into place. The abundance you seek is no longer far off or unattainable. It is drawn to you because you are resonating with it at a deep spiritual level. This acceleration of manifestation happens because when you are aligned with the right frequency, you are no longer working against the flow of life. In beta mode, we often struggle against the current of life, fighting to make things happen, pushing ourselves to achieve our goals through sheer willpower. But when you are in theta and gamma, you are no longer fighting against anything. Instead, you are moving in harmony with God's plan, and the desires of your heart naturally align with divine timing and provision. You stop working harder to achieve your goals and begin to receive them in God's perfect timing. The acceleration is not a result of more effort. It is the result of being in alignment with the flow of divine energy, where everything you need is already available to you. With manifestation comes an even deeper sense of abundance. It's not just about material wealth or success. It's about experiencing an abundant life in all areas. When you align your frequency with the divine, you open yourself up to the abundance of love, joy, wisdom, and peace that God has already prepared for you. Your relationships deepen, your health improves, and your spirit thrives as you live in a state of alignment with divine will. You no longer feel like you are chasing after abundance. It comes to you naturally as a result of your frequency alignment. As you continue to operate at this higher frequency, you'll find that the world around you changes. The more you align with God's plan and the divine flow, the more you will see manifestations of divine provision and blessings in every area of your life. Life becomes easier, lighter, and more fulfilling as you operate from a place of alignment with your true purpose. No longer do you struggle with doubt or uncertainty. Clarity, peace, discernment, and abundance flow effortlessly into your life. This is the transformative power of restored frequency. When you align your mind, spirit, and body with the right frequency, everything shifts. You begin to hear God's voice clearly, your path becomes illuminated, and you experience an overflow of blessings that were always meant to be yours. The struggle that once defined your spiritual journey is replaced with a sense of ease and grace as you move in divine alignment. The peace you've longed for becomes your reality, and the manifestation of your desires accelerates, moving you toward your purpose with clarity and confidence. The truth is that when you are aligned with God's frequency, life unfolds in the most beautiful, miraculous ways, and it all begins with the simple act of tuning in. As you continue to align yourself with the divine frequency, the transformation deepens. Clarity on life's purpose becomes even more pronounced as you move through your days with a renewed sense of direction. When you are attuned to God's plan, your calling is no longer something you have to search for or force. It becomes something you effortlessly recognize, like a compass pointing to true north. Every decision, every path, and every step becomes infused with purpose, as though the universe itself is paving the way for you to walk with ease. You are no longer caught in the confusion or overwhelm of trying to figure things out on your own. Instead, you know with a quiet certainty exactly where you are meant to go and what you are meant to do. This kind of clarity doesn't come from striving or working harder. It comes from the inner knowing that comes when you are operating at the right frequency. It's the kind of knowing that aligns you so deeply with your purpose that the question of, "What should I do next?" no longer feels daunting. Instead, it feels like a natural flow of action that is in perfect harmony with the divine. This clarity isn't just about the big picture, it also manifests in the small moments of life. When you are aligned with the right frequency, even the seemingly insignificant decisions feel guided. Whether you're choosing a career move, deciding where to go on vacation, or even determining who to spend time with, you make decisions with confidence because you are hearing from a place of deep inner wisdom. Your steps are no longer hesitant or driven by fear, but propelled by a sense of divine trust that leads you forward into every moment of your life. As synchronicities become more frequent, you begin to notice the web of connection that binds the events of your life together. No longer do you see these moments of divine alignment as coincidences. You recognize them for what they are, the divine appointments that are orchestrated just for you. Your life begins to unfold with greater ease, as though the universe is moving in rhythm with your intentions. You think of an old friend and they suddenly call you. You're pondering a decision, and the answer appears in the form of an unexpected sign or a conversation with a stranger. These are not mere happenstances. They are the universe responding to the frequency you are now operating in. The more you align with your divine purpose, the more these synchronicities appear, confirming that you are walking the right path. It's as if the world around you is conspiring in your favor, bringing people, opportunities, and resources into your life at exactly the right time. This is the power of alignment. The universe begins to align with you. The veil between the physical and spiritual worlds thins, and you begin to see how everything is interconnected. You understand on a deeper level that every moment, every conversation, and every experience has meaning and purpose. This realization brings with it a profound sense of peace, even in the most chaotic situations. No longer are you swayed by fear, doubt, or external circumstances. When you are aligned with the divine frequency, peace becomes your constant companion. Even when storms arise, you remain anchored in the quiet, unshakable knowing that everything is unfolding according to God's perfect plan. This is the peace that passes understanding, a peace that is not dictated by external events, but flows from a deep spiritual center. This peace isn't just an emotional feeling. It is a state of neurological calm. When you operate in theta-gamma frequencies, your nervous system is no longer constantly activated by stress or survival mode. You no longer react to the world around you with anxiety or fear. Instead, you respond with clarity, calm, and trust. Your body no longer lives in a state of fight or flight. Instead, it rests in a state of balance and restoration. This is a peace that sustains you through all of life's challenges, allowing you to face adversity with grace and wisdom. As you begin to experience this peace, your discernment sharpens as well. The heightened intuition that comes with being in the right frequency allows you to discern truth from deception, authenticity from pretense. You no longer rely solely on logic or external cues to determine the best course of action. Instead, you rely on your spiritual discernment, which becomes more finely tuned the longer you remain aligned with divine frequencies. You can sense when someone is being genuine and when their words don't match their energy. You can feel when something is off or when an opportunity is truly aligned with your purpose. This clarity doesn't just apply to relationships, it extends to all aspects of your life. You begin to feel into situations, understanding their true nature before they unfold. This is the gift of spiritual discernment that comes when your frequency is tuned to divine wisdom. It's the ability to see beyond the surface and tap into a deeper, more accurate understanding of reality. But perhaps the most profound transformation that comes with frequency alignment is the acceleration of manifestation. When you are in alignment with your true self, your desires, and God's will, everything starts to fall into place. You no longer have to fight or struggle to make things happen. Instead, the universe begins to work on your behalf, bringing your desires to fruition with effortless ease. You stop trying to force your goals into existence, and instead, you begin to attract them naturally. This acceleration is not about magic or wishful thinking. It is the result of being in sync with the frequencies that attract abundance, wisdom, and opportunity. It's the natural flow of life when you align with God's plan. When your frequency is in harmony with divine intelligence, manifestation speeds up because you are no longer working against the current of life. Instead of pushing, you begin to receive. What once took years of effort, planning, and striving now happens almost effortlessly. Synchronicities, divine connections, and the abundance you seek flow into your life as a natural extension of the work you are doing in alignment with your true self. This acceleration of manifestation affects all areas of your life: your relationships, your career, your health, and your finances. As you align with divine timing, your desires become more readily available to you. You no longer have to chase after what you want, because the frequency of divine provision is always working in your favor. Whether it's an opportunity that appears out of nowhere, a person who offers you the help you need, or an idea that suddenly becomes clear, everything begins to align, as if the universe itself is responding to your frequency. This is the power of frequency alignment. When you are in the right state, when you are tuned to the theta-gamma frequency, life begins to unfold in miraculous ways. You begin to experience clarity, peace, synchronicities, and accelerated manifestation. What once seemed distant or unattainable now becomes your reality. You no longer have to fight or strive for your desires. Instead, you align with them, and they flow effortlessly into your life. When your frequency is in harmony with divine intelligence, everything changes. You experience a life of purpose, peace, and abundance that you once only dreamed of. This is the transformation that comes when you align your mind, body, and spirit with the divine frequency. It's not a distant goal, it's the life you were always meant to live, and it begins with tuning into the frequency of divine connection. As you step forward on the path of frequency alignment, it's important to remember that this journey requires daily commitment and intentionality. The frequency you choose to align with isn't a one-time decision, it's a lifestyle. To maintain this alignment, you must make practices that support your spiritual growth part of your daily routine. The first step is to dedicate 7 to 12 minutes each morning to restore your frequency. This small but powerful practice can make all the difference in how your day unfolds. When you start your day by aligning your mind, body, and spirit with the divine frequencies, you set the tone for everything that comes after. In the morning before the demands of the day take over, take a few moments to center yourself. Whether you choose to listen to frequency-specific audio, engage in deep breathing, or simply sit in silence, make this time sacred. You are not merely preparing for the day ahead. In the physical sense, you are preparing your spirit to receive divine guidance, insight, and peace. When you restore your frequency in the morning, you create the right conditions for your mind to remain aligned throughout the day. These few minutes of stillness allow you to recalibrate and align yourself with the theta-gamma frequencies so that divine wisdom and peace can flow naturally as you move through the world. This practice of daily frequency restoration doesn't require hours of effort. It's a small investment of time that yields immense spiritual rewards. Once your frequency is restored, the next step is to reduce beta triggers throughout your day. Beta mode is where the stresses of life live: constant demands, worries, and external distractions that keep your mind in survival mode. These are the things that pull you away from the divine frequencies. The key is to actively minimize the amount of time you spend in environments that trigger stress and anxiety. Pay attention to the situations, people, and content that pull you into beta mode, and be intentional about stepping away from them. For example, if you find that social media or the news makes you feel overwhelmed or anxious, limit your exposure to it. If certain relationships bring you stress or emotional turmoil, set boundaries to protect your energy. Protecting your frequency means being intentional about the environments you expose yourself to. Surround yourself with people who uplift you spiritually and emotionally, and seek out spaces that foster peace, stillness, and alignment with God's will. In the same way that you protect your physical body from harmful substances, you must protect your mind and spirit from negative influences. This means being mindful of the content you consume physically, mentally, and spiritually. What you put into your body has a direct impact on your energy, clarity, and connection with the divine. If you are constantly consuming negative media gossip or toxic narratives, your frequency will be disrupted, making it harder to stay aligned with God. Instead, choose content that supports your spiritual growth. Fill your mind with words of encouragement, truth, and love. Read books, listen to teachings, or engage in activities that uplift and inspire you. Meditate on scripture or spiritual teachings that connect you to your higher self and your divine purpose. Mindful consumption is about choosing what you expose yourself to so that you can stay in the right state of mind and frequency. When you consume what nourishes your soul, your mind will remain clear, your spirit will remain open, and you will maintain alignment with the divine flow. Just as what you consume mentally and spiritually affects your frequency, what you consume physically has the same power. Your body is the vessel through which you experience this life, and it is essential to nourish it with foods and habits that support its natural function. Omega-3 fatty acids, hydration, and proper nutrition are essential for brain health and for maintaining the ability to operate in the higher frequencies. Without proper nourishment, your brain will struggle to drop into theta and gamma states, leaving you disconnected from the spiritual flow. Just as you would tune an instrument to keep it in tune, you must care for your physical body to ensure it can stay in alignment with the spiritual frequencies. The food you eat, the water you drink, and the rest you get all play a role in how well your body and mind can receive and maintain divine guidance. Proper nourishment and care for your body are essential for staying connected to the divine intelligence that is always available to you. Sleep is another crucial aspect of frequency maintenance. Quality sleep naturally restores the theta-gamma frequencies during deep rest. During sleep, your brain enters the natural cycles of theta and even delta waves, which are essential for healing, restoration, and spiritual renewal. If you're not getting enough rest, your body and mind cannot properly reset, leaving you in a state of beta stress. In this state, your ability to receive divine insight, intuition, and guidance is severely compromised. Restorative sleep is not a luxury, it is a necessity for your spiritual well-being. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep each night. During this time, your body and mind will naturally enter the frequencies of peace and spiritual connection, allowing you to awaken each day refreshed and aligned with the divine flow. Sleep is where your body recalibrates, and when you prioritize it, you give your mind the space to operate at its highest frequency. Finally, perhaps one of the most important shifts you can make is a shift in your mindset, specifically from striving to receiving. For so long, we have been taught that we must earn God's favor through our actions, that we must strive harder, pray longer, and work harder to deserve His blessings. This paradigm of striving comes from the beta frequency, where we push and struggle against the flow of life trying to control outcomes. But the truth is that God's blessings, wisdom, and guidance are already available to us. We don't need to earn them, we need to receive them. The key to receiving is to align with the divine frequency and step out of the constant hustle for approval and recognition. Instead of striving to prove yourself, embrace a state of humility and receptivity. Let go of the idea that you have to work harder than everyone else to deserve the blessing. God doesn't bless us because we've earned it. He blesses us because of His love, and we are simply called to align with that love. Humility isn't about seeing yourself as less than. It's about seeing yourself as a vessel open and ready to receive the guidance, wisdom, and blessings that God has already prepared for you. When you let go of the need to prove yourself and instead embrace a humble, receptive state, you open the door for divine insight and direction to flow freely into your life. You stop resisting the flow of grace and instead, you become a conduit for it. The path forward requires consistency and commitment. It requires aligning your frequency daily, protecting it from the stresses and distractions of life, and ensuring that your body, mind, and spirit are in harmony. The practices of restoring your frequency, consuming content that nourishes your soul, protecting your space, and prioritizing rest and sleep all work together to keep you in alignment with divine guidance. As you move forward on this journey, remember that it's not about striving, it's about receiving. The more you align with the right frequency, the more you will see your life unfold with ease and grace. You are not broken. You are simply realigning with the divine flow that has always been available to you. The path ahead is one of peace, clarity, and abundance, and it begins with choosing to protect and maintain your frequency every day. As we come to the end of this journey, it is time to make the shift, to move from striving in the wrong frequency to embracing the divine flow of God's wisdom, guidance, and peace. Now is the moment to affirm and declare your intention to align with the right frequency. Let's take a moment together, wherever you are, to make this declaration and invite God to restore what was always meant to be yours. Final prayer for frequency alignment. Heavenly Father, I come before you with an open heart, ready to receive your divine guidance and wisdom. I declare that I am shifting into the right frequency, the frequency where your voice is clear and your guidance flows effortlessly into my life. I release all the struggles, the doubts, and the effort of trying to make things happen on my own. I align my mind, body, and spirit with your divine will, trusting that you are leading me on the path you've already prepared. I ask you to restore my ability to hear your voice clearly, to receive your downloads, and to live in harmony with your purpose for my life. I choose to step into this divine frequency and receive all that you have for me. I surrender my striving and embrace the flow of grace. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. This prayer is not just words, it is an invitation to a new way of living. It is a decision to stop working against the divine flow and to start operating from a place of peace, alignment, and clarity. The tools and practices you've learned today are not just temporary solutions. They are the foundation for ongoing transformation. As you continue on your journey, remember that this alignment is not a one-time event. It's a lifestyle that requires daily dedication and mindfulness. Call to action. I encourage you to start your journey of frequency alignment today. Dedicate a few minutes each morning to reconnect with your divine frequency. Whether you choose to use tools like the Genius Wave Audio or simply practice deep breathing and meditation, the key is consistency. These tools are designed to help you restore your theta gamma state, making it easier to hear God's voice and receive divine guidance. Don't wait for the perfect moment or for everything to fall into place. Start now, and each step you take will bring you closer to a life of clarity, peace, and purpose. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. God is with you, guiding you every step of the way. Final words of encouragement. Know this: everything you have been searching for is already being broadcast by God. The guidance, the wisdom, the breakthrough you seek, it's already out there waiting for you to tune in. You are not waiting for something to come to you. It is already here. The universe is responding to your frequency, and all you need to do is remember how to receive it. God has already prepared everything for you, and the path is now clear. You don't need to strive harder. You need to align with the frequency that brings His blessings to you. The moment you do, you will find yourself walking in divine flow, experiencing synchronicities, clarity, and peace like never before. As you continue on this journey, remember that peace is your natural state when you are in alignment. It's not something you need to chase or work for, it's already within you. The same applies to your desires and dreams. They are already part of your divine purpose. When you align your frequency with God's will, the doors will open, the path will be illuminated, and everything you've been longing for will begin to manifest effortlessly. Close with a message of peace and divine clarity. For all who are ready to align with their true frequency, I speak peace over your life. May you feel the divine clarity that comes when you are tuned to the right frequency. May your path be illuminated, and may you walk in the confidence that you are hearing God's voice, clearly receiving His wisdom, and moving forward with peace and purpose. You are not lost. You are on the right path. God is guiding you every step of the way, and as you align your frequency with His, you will experience the fullness of His promises in your life.